Hello everyone, this is Dr. Asif from the Department of Geography, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. Today, I will talk about a module entitled Thermal Remote Sensing and its applications. You all know that remote sensing is one of the new emerging sciences and is very much useful as far as new technological development is concerned. We are having several kinds of remote sensing. In this module, I will discuss out of these remote sensing, sub-branches of remote sensing, rather I should say, one of the branch of knowledge, and that is known as thermal remote sensing. I will give you a brief discussion, brief introduction about different other techniques of remote sensing, but in this module, we will focus only on the thermal remote sensing and its application in solving the problem faced by the human being. As I told you that remote sensing is a emerging science in which we try to get the information about the objects, about the phenomena on the surface of earth without being into the direct contact with the object or the phenomena. There are several kinds of remote sensing. We can say active remote sensing and passive remote sensing. In active remote sensing, sensors are having their own source of energy, like we can say it is radar, which is one of the example of remote sensing, active remote sensing, because it is having their own source of energy in terms of the sensors mounted on the radar. But we are having another kind of remote sensing known as passive remote sensing. In passive remote sensing, we use sun's radiation directly or indirectly for the remote sensing activities. Passive remote sensing also divided into thermal remote sensing and optical remote sensing. When I talk about the optical remote sensing, in optical remote sensing, we directly use the reflected energy from the different objects. Say for example, there are various objects on the surface of earth, like trees are there, then the rivers are there, canals are there. These objects are there on the surface of earth and energy is being reflected from these objects, and remote sensing activities in optical remote sensing use the energy reflected by different objects. But here in this module, we are concerned about the thermal remote sensing, in which you all know that most of the objects on the surface of earth absorb the temperature, absorb the sun's energy, and after the absorbing the sun's energy, they start emitting this sun's energy. And in thermal remote sensing, we use this emitted or reflected sun's energy for the remote sensing activities. Thermal remote sensing, you all know, can be done in the night also, because we use the energy which is being absorbed by the objects and it is being used for the remote sensing activities. Thermal remote sensing is basically done in thermal remote sensing band, which is a part of the infrared band. Infrared band can be the next band of the visible band. In figure 1, you can show that we are having a scale, and that is known as electromagnetic spectrum. On this scale, we are having different bands having different wavelengths. These bands are basically nothing but the sun's energy into different bands on the basis of the availability of the wavelength. In the middle portion, we are having the visible band. You all know that it ranges from 4 to 7 micrometer. To the left of the visible band, we are having ultraviolet band, and next we are having X-rays band, and to the next we are having gamma rays band. But to the right of the visible band, we are having infrared band. Infrared band can be further divided into near infrared, mid infrared, and far infrared. This thermal remote sensing is done in near infrared and mid infrared band, where in most of the cases sky remains clear and it remains free from the atmospheric disturbances. This band covers a range of 3 to 5 micrometer and also 8 to 14 micrometer of the electromagnetic spectrum. Thermal remote sensing is basically depend upon the spectral emissivity and the temperature of the emitting body. First of all, I would like to explain you what is spectral emissivity. So when we talk about the spectral emissivity and kinetic temperature, we talk it in terms of the black body which is having a temperature of absolute zero. You all know that every body on the surface of earth emits temperature which is having a temperature above 0 degree Celsius. So this emissivity is basically the reflected energy or the reflected amount of radiation from a particular object or from a particular surface of earth. It works in relation with the black body. Black body's emissivity is 1 because it absorbs all amount of radiation and it also reflected back all amount of radiation. So in terms of the black body, we talk about the emissivity of a particular object. Emissivity of different objects is being explained in the table 1. You all should have gone through the table 1 and look at the different surfaces giving in the table 1. You are having the snow covered field, you are having the different rocks, you are having the vegetation cover. All these emissivity is being written in the table, and emissivity is being basically of natural objects is in between 1 and 0, and majority of the natural objects having a emissivity of in between 0.75 to 0.85. So this emissivity is nothing but basically the reflected amount of energy from a particular objects. When we talk about the temperature, it is basically the surface temperature of the objects which tells us about the total temperature or the total condition of that particular objects. So it depends upon these two things. I would like to explain you the concept of black body in a little bit more comprehensive manner. As I told you, black body is a theoretical concept which does not exist on the surface of earth. But to explain you the different things, I am talking about the black body. As I told you that it has a emissivity of 1, or we can say it has an emissivity of 100%. And emissivity of all the other objects is being determined on the basis of the black body concept, which is having a 1 emissivity. There is no object on the surface of earth which is having an emissivity of 1, but there are several objects like clean water or the deep water which are near to the black body concept, but they are not the black body concept. Apart from the black body concept, there are certain other way to explain the emissivity. There are the regions which are called gray emissivity regions, or we can call them gray bodies. Gray bodies are those bodies which reflect a small fraction of the total energy stored by them, but that depends upon the wavelength of different bands. A third group of this is known as selective radiation, in which it also reflects a little amount of the radiation, but its emissivity is not free of the wavelength. So there are three kind of bodies in which we can say black bodies, gray body and selective bodies. I would like to explain you further this concept with the help of the figure 4. In figure 4, you can say that the emissivity of the black body is a perfect curve in which we are having 1:1 ratio of emissivity. But gray body's emissivity is having the same shape as the black body's curve, but its emissivity is not as perfect as the emissivity of the black body. But when we talk about the selective body's emissivity, its curve is altogether different from the black body's and gray body's emissivity. Now I would like to explain you principles of radiations. When we talk about the principles of radiations, it is Planck's radiation law which states that all objects above absolute zero temperature radiates electromagnetic radiation energy. Planck's radiation law describes the amount of emitted energy per wavelength depending on the object's temperature. Here we are having figure 5. With the help of the figure 5, Planck's radiation law can be illustrated very precisely. These graphs which are shown in figure 5, these graphs are often referred to as the black body curves. The figure shows that for very hot surfaces like sun, the peak of the black body curve is at short wavelengths, as it can be seen with the help of the graph. For colder surface such as the earth, the peak of the black body curve move to the lower wavelength, as it can be seen with the help of the graph.
This behavior is further described by Wien's displacement law, which shows Wien's law can be used to predict the position of the peak of the black body curve if temperature of the emitting objects is known. If we are interested in monitoring forest fires that burn at 10,000 Kelvin, we immediately turn to band around 2.9 micrometer, where the radiation maximum for those fires is expected.
On the basis of the graph, we are able to explain that why shortwave radiation is required for the optical remote sensing and why comparatively long wave radiation is required for the thermal remote sensing. Now I would like to explain you the mode of data acquisition in thermal remote sensing. First of all, we will discuss active versus passive mode. In majority of the cases for thermal remote sensing, we use the passive mode of data collection, because in thermal remote sensing, as you know, we use those energy which is being emitted or reflected by the objects which are there on the surface of earth. I would like to further explain this, that we are having object on the surface of earth, few energy is being trapped by these objects, and after the trapping this energy, they redirect these energy or release this kind of energy, and that energy which is being released by the object is being used for the thermal remote sensing. Second mode of thermal remote sensing is broadband versus multispectral band. In thermal remote sensing, we mostly use the broadband, a window in between 8 to 14 micrometer. In thermal remote sensing, we also use other windows, but this is the best suited window as far as the thermal remote sensing is concerned. Multispectral band is basically used for geological purposes. We do not use this band particularly in infrared remote sensing. Third important mode of data acquisition is daytime versus nighttime data acquisition. As you all know that in thermal remote sensing, we use those energy which is being captured by the object, and that energy is further released by the object, so it can be done during the night time very easily. One of the important advantage of nighttime remote sensing is that it remains free from the temperature variations, which is helpful in rectification, and or we can say which is helpful in acquisition of the data in a little bit better manner. So it remains free from the temperature variations when we use the thermal remote sensing during night times. In this module, we next describe several types of sensors which are used in thermal remote sensing. These sensors are basically having different types of characteristics which are being used for the thermal remote sensing. Different types of sensors are useful during different types of conditions. It depends upon the weather conditions, it depends upon the whether we are doing it at the night time, whether we are doing it at the daytime. So different sensors are being designed purposefully, and these sensors are used purposefully for different types of activities in thermal remote sensing. So with the help of the above discussion, you are able to understand what is thermal remote sensing. In this module, we are basically concerned about thermal remote sensing because thermal remote sensing independently can be very much helpful in different types of applications. When we talk about the use of thermal remote sensing, diverse fields can be mapped. It can be used in various kinds of activities for the better use of the resources. It can be used. There are several ways by which we can use the thermal remote sensing, but I would like to discuss few important applications of thermal remote sensing. First of all, I would like to talk about the application of thermal remote sensing in agriculture and food industry. As you all aware that agriculture is the mainstay of the majority of the population here in India and also in different parts of the world. We can use thermal remote sensing for the better agricultural result, like what is the condition of the water with the crop, how much amount of moisture is available with the crop, we can easily identify it with the help of the thermal remote sensing. What is the appropriate time for the irrigation can be easily identified with the help of the thermal remote sensing. Thermal remote sensing is also able to detect the different types of disease which are being spread in different agricultural activities. It can also tell us about the time of maturity of the fruits, time of the maturity of the crops, times of the maturity of the vegetables can also be identified with the help of the thermal remote sensing. So, in the field of agriculture and food industry, thermal remote sensing can be very helpful if we apply it appropriately, if we applied it in a comprehensive manner. With the help of the advanced technology like thermal remote sensing using in Indian agriculture, we can easily increase our productivity, we can easily save thousands of rupees and crores of rupees by applying it in agricultural industry. So, it is very immune, the use of thermal remote sensing is very immune as far as the agriculture is concerned. Thermal remote sensing is also helpful in identifying the natural hazards like volcanicity. Volcanicity can be easily mapped with the help of the data acquired through the thermal remote sensing. The flow of the lava can be predicted. The amount of the gases which are coming from different fisheries can be predicted and can be mapped. So, with the help of the thermal remote sensing, we are able to identify how much damages will be done with the help with this volcanic eruptions. So, it can be easily used to mitigate or to minimize the impact of the volcanic activities on the life of the human being. Similarly, we can also use to predict how much lava will be flow from which part of the area and how much lava can reach to what distances. So, it is very useful as far as the natural hazards like volcanicity is concerned. One of the most important advantage of thermal remote sensing is that it can be used in border security purposes. We can use thermal remote sensing to safeguard our borders. We are having a long border with different countries of the world. To safeguard these borders, we can use the thermal remote sensing, because you all know that during night time even we can easily identify the objects with the help of the thermal remote sensing. It is very easy to identify the man-like object with the help of the thermal remote sensing data, and that can be very much helpful in safeguarding our borders. It can also be used in identifying different types of other objectives, like we are searching anything in border areas, we are looking for anything in the border areas, so it can be detected, it can be identified with the help of the thermal remote sensing. So, it can be a very much helpful when we talk about thermal remote sensing in terms of the border security management. We can use this new technology, its application in the border security management in a way so that it can safeguard our border and our country in the long run. Thermal remote sensing is also very much helpful in weather forecasting conditions. We can easily forecast the weather conditions with the help of the thermal remote sensing. Different activities which are happening on the surface of the oceans in terms of the temperature, in terms of the pressure, in terms of the movement of the winds can be easily identified with the help of the thermal remote sensing. So, we can predict the amount of rainfall, we can predict the amount of cloudiness, we can predict the amount of different typhoons or different types of tornadoes can be easily predicted with the help of the thermal remote sensing. This thermal remote sensing can be very much helpful when we talk about the hazards like tsunami. Tsunami can be easily predicted with the help of the data collected through the thermal remote sensing. So, when we talk about the weather condition, when we talk about the prediction of different environmental hazards, it can be very helpful when we use the thermal remote sensing. It can be also used in identification of the building material, in identification of the moisture condition of the building. It can be also used in different other ways like coal mining can be identified, the depth of the coal mining and the application in other industries can also be helpful with the help of the thermal remote sensing. This thermal remote sensing is also applicable in different other fields like mapping the earthquake zones, like forest fire, like coal fire, like other things can be easily mapped, can be easily identified with the help of the thermal remote sensing. So dear students, we have gone through a long discussion about thermal remote sensing and its application. As I told you that remote sensing is an emerging science and it can be further divided into active and passive remote sensing. It can also be divided into optical and thermal remote sensing. I have already explained you the difference in between optical and thermal remote sensing. Thermal remote sensing works in near infrared and middle infrared band, which is comparatively free from the atmospheric disturbances. As I have already discussed several laws related to the thermal remote sensing. I also try to explain the concept of black body and its emissivity, and emissivity of different objects have also been discussed with you. In the last, I discussed with you the application of thermal remote sensing in different types of purposes. We are using thermal remote sensing in several purposes, including agriculture, environmental hazards management, including the volcanicity, including different other fields like building and its moisture conditions, its inner status. All these things can be identified and can be easily detected with the help of the thermal remote sensing. I do hope that with this module you will be able to understand thermal remote sensing in a little comprehensive manner. Thank you very much.